maybe app idea there.
Man, I wish.
But yeah, I say let's get started and see what people have to show.
All right, cool. Marius, you just took yourself off of video. Oh, you're going to you're being official. We'll pass it off to Marius, and if is I can't believe that app is called that name. That sounds so
definitely
horrible.
not going into
Okay.
I was switching from my big monitor because I know sometimes it's tough to see the details if I'm sharing my screen on the big monitor. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could get started. Let me start sharing my screen here. I didn't honestly prepare a lot for this. Can you guys see my screen? Yes. Okay, cool. So I didn't prepare a lot for this, but I'll do my best. So the thing I built was an app called Mindful Tasks. And the reason I built it is that my day-to-day job is I'm the CEO of a small online company called sharegrid.com. We help photographers and filmmakers rent out equipment. And my day-to-day kind of looks crazy. I mean, I'm anywhere. I'm a designer kind of by trade. Sometimes I'm designing things. Sometimes I'm hiring people. Sometimes I'm doing check-ins or roadmaps or checking in with our investors or whatever it is. And one of the issues I kept having is that somebody would ask me, you know, like, what'd you do yesterday? And I know I did a lot. I just don't remember what I did. It's such a blur because I'm constantly context switching and going from task to task. Or if somebody asked me, what'd you do last week? I would have to like look at my calendar to kind of remind myself of what I did the previous week. And most to-do apps, you know, if you use like reminders or anything like that, the moment you kind of check something off, it's gone. And it's really tough to come back to it. And I kept getting this like, I'm in a rat race. I keep going on the treadmill, but I don't really take a step back to kind of breathe and be like, wow, I did a lot. Like, let's celebrate that, right? And I couldn't really find a lot of solutions out there as far as apps that would help with that. So probably a year ago or two, I actually went on to build something in Coda. So that was my first kind of prototype, was like, what if I had a daily check-in? So for every day, I had kind of a to-do list, and then I could like drag it. If I didn't get it done on one day, I could drag it to the next day. And every time I checked something off, I could go back to my done items and kind of look at like what I've done in those days, and maybe there's a date range, right? And then the third thing that would be really cool is that we do, you know, kind of a stand up every morning. It'd be cool if I could just click a button and that would post a Slack of what I did that day and what I'm doing the next day. And this worked for a little while, but it was kind of buggy. If you could look at some of my crazy formulas here that I had a lot of help from the Coda team to put together. It worked, but it didn't like kind of capture everything I wanted. And my ideal thing was something like this. I designed this interface out where the ideal kind of look would be, here's Sunday, so that's yesterday. Here's today, what I'm working on today, and there's Tuesday, what the next day. So I would just see the previous day, today, and tomorrow. And it would be awesome if this app would also kind of track everything I was doing, from like any events I'm part of, any kind of activity from Figma to any activity I had maybe on like Google spreadsheets. So it would kind of keep track of what I did throughout the day, and I wouldn't have to remember. I could just click the plus and it would add it to my done items, right? And then the third part of this design was, what if there's a timeline? So I could always go back and see what I've achieved over time. And this was kind of like my kind of North Star design. I was like, man, if I could build something like this, that would be awesome. But I was just starting to learn Bubble, so I wasn't even sure if this was possible. So, you know, I started this probably 3-4 months ago, but now it's actually, I've built it and it actually works. It's actually even a little, I even built it as a web app. And the reason why is that I love to use my spacebar for kind of, quick, so I could just type mindful task in my spacebar and pick it up and start writing my to-do list. So this is the kind of final product that I'm still working on it. I'm constantly tweaking it. So the idea right now is I'm actually have Google plugged in here, so I could pull in all my events, all my calendar events automatically for my Google Calendar. I do plan on integrating with Figma and GitHub and a lot of others, but right now it's just my Google Calendar. And then here are all of my tasks for today. And if you go to Tuesday, here's all my tasks for Tuesday. And you could actually drag and drop these around. So you could switch the location. I could even drag it from one day to the next day, or I could even drag it down to the timeline here and move it to a whole different date. If you go to the side here, you could go back to Wednesday, May 5th, and you could see what I did on Wednesday, May 5th. And the coolest part is I even have metrics. So I could say, how am I doing this week compared to the previous week? So yeah, that's
so cool, Marius. Can we see the back end? A little peek under the hood?
Yep, for sure. And oh, one last thing that I just added that's super cool. This all shortcut based. So I could actually move up and down on all of the tasks. I could press H to move a task to tomorrow really quick, next week, or I could actually move it to a certain date. And I have now shortcuts to delete, complete, stuff like that. Now I'll move to the back end. It's super crazy. I don't even know what you guys would want to see. Every single part of this app took me like weeks to sometimes figure out. Just like the integration for the Google Calendar took a long time. One of the toughest parts was just dragging up and down and keeping the order in mind. So like, this is what does all the order tracking, how things are ordered. So it was really, really tough, and I could not have done it without the community of Bubble and all the forums and everybody in there helping me out. So I won't go into any details. I don't want to take up too much time, but if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer it.
This is amazing, Marius. I think Veronica actually has the first question in chat.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump. Like you mentioned, it's a web app, which is really cool. So you can, it is a PWA, it's just a native Bubble functionality. And this is connected to something you said later, which is that you were able to put shortcuts. Are these like custom shortcuts? Is this native? How? I didn't know it was possible.
Yeah, so the whole native thing is actually not super native. It's an app called Flotado. And Flotado just loads a web view essentially inside kind of a native app, and you could do an icon. So I have a nice little icon here, but it gives me the functionality. The biggest thing for me is I didn't want to have to go to a website inside a browser to write a to-do app, a to-do task, right? So like by pressing command space, I could quickly get my to-do app up and ready. So that's how I did that. It's super easy. Flotado, it's free. You could do it for any website. It's really, really cool. Now, as far as the, I'll show you how the keyboard shortcuts work. So there's a thing called, there's a plugin called Air Keyboard Shortcuts. And essentially you could have like a certain key start an event. So this key, when you press H, it displays data in a pop-up and it animates the pop-up up, right? When you click up, well, when I click J is what I have it mapped to, it sets a state and it moves the highlight.
So this is a Bubble plugin.
It's a Bubble plugin, yeah, to do shortcuts.
And you have this key. So you determine the shortcuts for every user. I mean, in this case, the main user is you, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if I would be able to have other people determine the shortcuts. I'm sure there might be a way, but I'm a big user of Superhuman, and Superhuman is all shortcut based essentially. Superhuman's an email client, and it's all shortcut based. So that's what inspired me. So I don't plan on letting people change their shortcut keys. I would probably just set it up and hopefully people would use it that way.
Amazing. Marius, I'm sure there's bunch of more questions. We can keep it for the Q&A, but I want to pass it off to Veronica. One of the notes in the chat, which is, I think, a universal question that I have is, how do we get access to it? Is there like an early URL? Is there a GitHub? Well, how do we get this?
Not anytime. I would say probably not for another couple months. I'm still like tweaking. This is a passion project for me, so I'm just gonna keep tweaking and start using it myself. But when I am ready, I would love beta users and get people to test it for me. That would be wonderful.
All right, we got your initial cohort, I think. Cool. So Veronica, you're up next with Notion apps with Zapier, and then Nick Asab, you're on deck.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So, well, the context is pretty simple, actually. Let me start with where it all started, which is the Notion API. Of course, like, you know, this is, I'm not going to spend time on this. I think we all know what Notion is and what the API is. And it's actually here. And I think the site they did is beautiful. You know, the reference documentation is wonderful. So, you know, if you have it, check it. It has some limitation, but one of the integration that they did right off the bat, I believe, is Zapier, Automate IO, and a couple of ones. I was actually lucky to be on the closed beta, but I didn't have time to work on any API also because I'm a lousy developer. I barely know what JSON is. So if you're like me here, you know, trust that, you know, you can do stuff even if you're not a developer. But so I started with the easiest thing. Like, you know, once I saw that the Zapier integration go live, I just jumped on it, and I have a running list of ideas that I want to do because I use Notion pretty heavily in my business and my personal life. I think a lot of people do. So I started with this Notion to GCal integration, and I wrote a little documentation, but really what it does is, like, when a meeting is created in Notion, create its corresponding invite in GCal. This is a classic because I think a lot of people want to use Notion for meetings because they have this nice, actually, calendar view. So a lot of people actually create meetings, internal, external, like this. And of course, the missing piece is, oh, what if I connect it to my Google Calendar? I think it's actually a nice transition from the previous demo. Just a little, you know, if imagine that you're doing it on Notion and you're trying to integrate it. This previously was absolutely impossible. I mean, you have to manually, you know, edit it. So this is what I was hoping to accomplish with the Zap. And I discovered some limitations while doing this that I'll be happy to go over. But, you know, just so you see the structure, I think, you know, one thing that's important before you handle any Zap, I think if you're familiar with Zap, familiar with Notion, you should absolutely try everything. The important thing that you have to do that I learned is that you have to kind of structure the data ahead. And be very clear on what you name things. Otherwise, when you open it in Zap, you're going to go crazy. So in this case, I had a date, and for this to work, it does need to have like time and end date. This is not something that comes by default. So if you don't do this, it's not going to work. And then the nice thing is that one of the properties that is supported by the API is user. So this is actually a property type person. So that is going to work really well if you want to do this for internal purposes. So that's going to work like a charm if you're just doing for internal meetings. But in my case, and this is where I started hitting some limitation, I wanted to do it for external meetings. I thought, what if I could just, you know, schedule a biz lunch on Notion and it just grabs my client, and I have like a people database that, you know, it's just this is a relation field. I just created a test client here. But you can, you know, where you can grab client. And of course, like I have all my interconnected stuff where every client is a company, every company is this thing. So I have all this like roll up fields, and my use case in Notion is a little more advanced. So if you guys just have like an email field here, it's going to work like a charm. In my case, I discovered that the Zapier integration does not support fields that come from other databases. And the nice thing is that the Zapier guys are now working on fixing this, thanks to me. So you're welcome. But the idea is, you know, soon, let's just go to the Zapier real quick because I don't know how I'm doing on time. But this is kind of like the template.
2 minutes, Veronica. You're pacing excellent.
I'm good. Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm a fast talker. And So anytime a new database item is created in Notion is the trigger, and the action is create a detailed event in Notion. There are a few more triggers in Zapier that you can pick if you want to get creative with other things. But it's normal, I think it's just new database and update database. And there is a page element in Notion, so you can change the content inside the page, but it's only text. So if you expect, so you have a database nested or images nested, that's not going to work. So it's only text. It's pretty limited. I know Notion is working on it, but it's a complicated API. So yeah, I mean, we could just go really quickly into that, but see, you know, the event is new database item. There's only one more in Zap. And you just choose account, set up the trigger. The Notion piece was actually relatively easy. And refreshing the fields like work quite nicely if you remember to actually do the integration. But actually, let me do parenthesis. To get access to the APIs, you just click to get started. You don't need permission nor anything. You become a Notion developer just by clicking the red button, and you go here, and basically you just create an integration. This is all you need to do. This is all you need to do. You just create a name and you get an API and it works. It's wonderful. Like it might be called beta, but they did it really well. And basically you just can read. And then actually the harder piece was the second piece, which is kind of mapping all the fields. Yeah, actually this is where the action kind of gets complicated. And let me know if I'm getting a little too deep here, but you can see I decided to just add the quick description. Start date, it grabs the properties, and the nice thing is that it grabs, you see, like, you know, if you show all options, Notion kind of tells you, like Zapier tells what they're able to read and what they don't, and this is your way to know what's available and what doesn't. So you can grab things like last edited times and things like that. But for example, I had some other properties here that they didn't grab. So I wanted to grab the email, and I discovered, oh, Zapier doesn't see it. And this is because their integration like didn't see related emails. So a little bit, it's about like how complex your database is. And you're kind of this overlapping use case of what are the Notion API limitations overlapping with what are the current Zapier integration limitations, and then whatever they allow you to do, you can do. But this is, I think, a good use case. And you could also, my next plan is to just do the reverse. And it sends the invite. It does not edit it. It does not sync it both ways. To do it, you would need to create a new Zap that kind of watches the event and updates it if there's a match. But you know, you can usually test, and we can try to test it live if do I have time to test it live? It used to work last week, but I haven't tried it yet.
I'll ask the first question during Q&A. Can you show it?
Can I show it live, like doing live?
Yeah, let's show it live. That's the first question.
Let's see what happens.
I don't know. New launch. Oh no, actually demo day.
Yeah, we need to pray to the demo gods.
Today and day, include time. I think it's going to be 12 p.m. right? To 12. What is it? 1 p.m.
Yep.
Oops. Okay. And another thing that you encounter here that you might want to think of is the time zone. So of course, the Zapier goes with UTC, so Universal Time Zone. So there's that. It does work, but by default, but something to think about. For example, I heard that Automate.io does not handle time zone really well. They haven't thought about this. Test, so live demo. And I don't know, who want to be by test client? Riley, who wants to be here? Riley?
I'll go for it.
Okay, you're going to be my new guy. Riley, what is it?
You can just do Riley Jones Design at Gmail.
Is this correct?
Riley, this is when we bleep out the sensitive content.
Change it. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. You're on. Yeah, see, it pulled, so Notion works. That's good. And now you should get an invite. So we'll see. Let's go back to the Zap. Actually, let's try to retest. Let's see. Actually, we should probably probably, oh, a test was successful, but I don't think he grabbed the right event. So maybe we should just try to trigger the Zap instead.
The Zap is on, so it should have worked probably. If you look at the history of the Zap.
Oh yeah, you're right. How do we look at the history of the Zap? Like this?
It's the little clock, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then success, May 13.
No, I think I need to trigger it. How do I trigger it custom? Like trigger it now?
You'd have to pull a new option, probably. So from new database in Notion, click on that. And then if you want to do it as a test, you'd have to grab it.
No, I thought there was a way to just trigger the Zap now.
Yeah, if you go to your dashboard, there's going to be a drop-down option on the very right that says manual run.
See, I knew that was here, like something like this. Run Zap, yes, thank you.
Nice.
Yes, we
didn't know
found
that.
it. So something works.
We brought a Zapier Pro on this call just for you,
Pretty
Veronica.
successful. Well, Riley, you want to look at your calendar? I don't have it open. I try to close there as many Zaps as I
All
could.
right, let's look.
But, you should have it.
Hey, success.
Success. Yeah, see, it actually works like a charm. And the nice guys at Zapier are actually fixing this. But here you can see this is a formula. And I had to do it as a workaround because Zapier couldn't see the grab email, which is a roll-up. So they don't see roll-up fields. Anyway, if you want to learn this, I documented everything here. And I also have some additional ideas. So I want to do like a lot of Zapier templates. I think, the crew here is pretty sophisticated. So I think you can create your own Zap, but I'm in a Notion like Telegram group and people are lost. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to just create some templates for them. And I just want to go wild here. And so, yeah, go ahead. I have a lot of ideas for myself that I just want to templatize.
Veronica, can you drop that link in the chat?
Oh yeah.
Love to see it.
100%.
Thank you. So cool. Thanks, Veronica. Up next, Nick Kasab with Airtable and Zen for the research repo on deck.
So I'm gonna start sharing my screen, and let's see, screen one. Sure. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to stop my screen.
Yes, we can see it, Nick.
Great. So I'm also a designer by trade. And rather than booting this up, I'm going to show you a quick video of how this works. Because I also want to show you another, I'm going to pull an Audible on John, and I'm going to show you guys another tool that I built recently, which is more, this is built with code. It's like, it helps with no code development, but the other tool is built all in no code. So I think that'll be a little bit better. So what this does is, if you're familiar with Airtable, you can go in and take the Airtable API and plug it into a tool called Grasshopper. I don't know how many people are familiar with this, but this is a tool that allows people to do computational design inside of a 3D environment, inside of Rhino. And you just pull the API key, drop it into the plugin, and you can pull data fields from Airtable. And you can get it to continuously update, which is great because you can integrate it with like a form or Zapier or something so that the database changes, the update happens, and then it pushes to your computer, and then something happens with your design, right? Because there's either a number that changes or some kind of field or something that it's referencing that changes. So that is that. And if you're interested or curious about it, you can go to nickkasab.com and check it out. I also wanted to show a tool that I built in Glide apps, which, if Glide connected to Airtable, I would have used an Airtable spreadsheet to do it. And I actually did use Airtable to kind of like clean and organize a couple of spreadsheets so that I can compile them together inside of Glide. And I'll show you what that means in a second. Essentially, what happened at the beginning of the pandemic was all these restaurants were allowed to self-certify here in New York City to open outdoor seating. And so they had like a little diagram of what that seating could look like. And as long as they went to the NYC, .gov website, they can put in their address, the information, and essentially say, we want to do this. and the city wouldn't check whether or not they were complying. They were basically telling the restaurant you should comply and allowing them to comply. And so what happened was there was this open spreadsheet of all of the restaurants that had signed up for this thing, and it gave the dimensions, it gave all the information about the restaurant. And so I built a little Glide app that allows you to search by borough, search by different like areas in Manhattan. So you can see if I filter by Manhattan or areas in the city, I can then go to Chinatown. Actually, let me see. Yeah, here, Chinatown, and click through, and I can see all the restaurants that had self-certified to have outdoor seating during the pandemic. And then I can look at a list view and check out, you know, different information about the site. About the restaurant, or I could click on the restaurant itself and then go in here. And the funny thing about the Glide apps thing is that it like all defaulted to 5 out of 5 recommendations, and you could like favorite them, and it, you know, you'd start to collect some of these restaurants. And so, and this was built using just the data from the city. None of it was built with, like I didn't add any information about the city itself. I didn't, or about the restaurants itself. It just kind of, I just like dragged and dropped the spreadsheet that other people had created and built an app out of it, which I thought was really fun to do. And yeah, I think that's it. I can look at, we can start showing behind the hood. How am I doing on time, John?
Doing well, maybe like 1 minute behind the hood and then Q&A.
Okay, so behind the scenes, what's happening is basically this is the original spreadsheet that came out of, I think it's a little bit cleaned up, but this is the spreadsheet that came out of the New York City database of all the restaurants that had signed up. And what was cool was that I originally built an app where you could see just all the restaurants spread out throughout the city, but the map functionality became really, really slow. And it was kind of unusable because you couldn't really click on a portion. So I realized I needed to filter by some property. And I thought it'd be best to filter by neighborhoods because there was a neighborhood column that was automatically filled in. And actually that was something that was really interesting to clean up, because sometimes people wrote in, like the restaurants would write in a different neighborhood, and Google Maps like had it be in like London or something. And so I had to kind of like clean that data to make sure that all the neighborhoods actually were something that were picked up by the Google Maps API. And eventually what happened was I built another spreadsheet, and this is where I had taken it into Airtable in order to like group the two spreadsheets together. But basically there was a secondary spreadsheet that had all of the neighborhood names, and then a column for all of the restaurants. And I think it's like this one or something, but all of the restaurants that had that neighborhood name. And that's what allowed me to go into Glide and have this sort of like interface where I'm clicking on neighborhood and then viewing all the restaurants that are in that neighborhood. So it's kind of like this 2-step process. Yeah.
Very cool, Nick. I'll kick off with the first question. So Glide's kind of like database-y sheets is kind of new, right? It used to all go off of Google Sheets. What was the experience like?
So it still only goes off of Google Sheets, but the way I hacked it was I used Airtable to create separate spreadsheets that were linked together and then exported those out into separate spreadsheets. And so in, so in the app, and I'll show you this, each one of these like I have the learn section, which was just an idea to have like kind of like a menu. I have users, and then the restaurants view and the neighborhoods view are 2 separate spreadsheets, but they were basically both created in Airtable automatically.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Open Q&A.
Yeah, it's a public app, so you guys can check it out on Glide Apps. I think.
I just dropped the URL in the chat, and it works for me. Looks really cool.
Yeah, I have a quick question on what you said about Airtable. So you had to do this Airtable workaround because Glide wants every spreadsheet to be separate.
Yeah, exactly. So I wonder.
And my other question was, how many restaurants did you actually have to hit before it got unresponsive? Because that is, I'm curious.
So the unresponsiveness was just with the map. The map was the part because it was displaying too many pins at once. But the app itself is actually pretty quick for pretty large database. It's just when it tried to render all those pins.
And even the filtering, it filters right away.
The filtering, that's the thing. I had to kind of, it was like a workaround by basically creating this interface where essentially, and I'm going to move this thing off to the side, but essentially there's, I have this one page that's like a tiles section, and the action is a link to a screen, and it goes to a different data, a different data source, right? And what happens is when I link to that screen with that data source, what I'm doing is I'm drilling through essentially the same function that Airtable allows, where you drill from one database to a secondary database, but there's that link. And so that's what I needed to kind of create that link between the different addresses in one database, in one sheet with the addresses in another sheet. So yeah. I don't know if that, I mean, it's difficult to explain in like a short.
No, I got it. Like I'm surprised, I'm impressed honestly by Glide, because you also have a search bar here. And if you have like thousands of restaurants, it means that you could do freeform search and it works. That's
I mean, let me see if,
you have like really like minimalistic design, so you don't have a lot of pages.
I actually really like the design, but yeah, it's super minimalistic. Let me see. So, but you see how like the lettering with the ... it wasn't really nice, but that's because I was essentially hacking Glide to do this feature. So I didn't really have a lot of control over the thing. But yeah, so if I go in here, I can search by neighborhood, right? I have to filter first and then search. So that, that it doesn't become.
So you don't search like across like thousands of.
I wish. But yeah, it's like you're kind of like stepping down a hierarchy in order to search. Yeah. But
sure, Nick.
Cool, it looks like a native app when you open it on the. You can like, yeah.
It's so cool. It looks like is it Mapbox is native within Glide?
Exactly. Mapbox has a feature, and they actually have a really nice template that you can just be up and running in 5 minutes.
Thanks for sharing, Nick. This is really cool.
Awesome.
Zen, you're next up with the research repo, and then on deck is Corey with the accessibility checklist.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zen. I am a user researcher at Vox Media, and my background is in support ops and in instructional design. And I've also worked at Zapier before this, which brought me to like the no-code world. So at Vox Media, our research team does editorial, brand, and audience research on our properties, which include networks like Vox.com, The Verge, NY Mag, many more. My first project as a user researcher was to get our huge amounts of reports on all of these different areas into a searchable repository for PMs and designers. So reports now are mostly on Google Drive and Slab. It's really difficult to navigate. It is not centralized. It's only the user research team that understands the top-down hierarchy, and people just trusted asking human beings on the user research team more. So there are two main reasons that people do not rely on repositories. The first is they don't trust that they are searching correctly. There are namespace issues. There are projects that have changed names over their life cycle, so you have to type in like every form of this name, and that's really, really annoying. The other thing is they don't trust the results that repositories have returned. So we've all had that experience where we type in a keyword and it surfaces every freaking record that just mentions that word one time, and it's not actually relevant to what you want. So my thesis statement, so to speak, was this, that like the repository was not worth building and putting huge amounts of efforts into if I could not address these two trust issues. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And credit to John, because I based the basics off of this on Thumbtack's repository, which I believe that you worked on. And I used Coda.
Remix. Yes, I did work on that.
Awesome. Yeah, and I use Coda because it is free, and also because I love the amount of specificity I can control that dedicated repo software cannot do. So this is not actually in use yet. I've only just finished the core function, so I don't have broad feedback on what people love yet, but I have tested this extensively. So here are the key functions. We've got nice little welcome page that shows people what the repository is and how to use it. I'm generating a list of our starred super special research over here. Here is the actual place to search for research. So I can just start putting in any term over here, and it'll automatically filter my results. It shows exactly what I am searching. And on those trust and namespace issues before, if I'm searching something that actually exists as a tag, and this is like intelligently human tag, it will go ahead and include the results for that. So it's kind of like a fail-safe. It also works for other versions of the word, like story versus stories. And this is all something I've set up in a table myself that anyone with absolutely no Coda experience can update themselves. So like Megaphone is a podcast provider. And so I have set Megaphone to return results from podcast as well. So that is the tag thing. And let's see. Another thing that this does is it searches through multiple of these keywords whenever I type anything in. So actually, I'm going to keep this in here. Oh, actually, before I continue further, I just kind of wanted to show you what this table actually looks like. So you can click to view the report over here. The goals are listed. Some key insights are also listed. So it gives you an idea of what this report is, so you can actually click on it. The goal is you do not stop here. You have to click on a report to actually get some special use out of it. And then there's some more information over here, as well as a bunch of hidden rows. So I have searched stream right now. And one thing that I did was actually introduce a relevancy score on the results. So you can kind of see that like it's prioritizing certain things over others. This title doesn't seem to be about stream, so it has been deprioritized, but I'm using a ton of different metrics on this. So let's see. There you are. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. This is the calculated relevance score, and I'm using a few different ways of calculating this. So my starred research is like the hyper important research gets a little boost. Every single time it finds a match, not only on the word stream, but also streams and story streams and all of that. It adds another point to kind of increase the relevancy. And so it's sorted by that. And that way you can kind of instantly know that this is going to be valuable to you. So I will go ahead and hide that real quick. What else? Let's see. I'll just show you what that namespace thing is over here. So here are some of the tags that I have added. And you can see some of these have really divergent names, like custom story has a whole bunch of different acronyms. What else is interesting? So apologies to the people from Coda, but I found a way to escape the row limit. So what I showed you before was a reports level searcher. And what I know I could use is an insights level searcher that actually breaks it down by bullet point. So this, I will go ahead and build the table, and it's a whole formula map situation. Oh, I guess it's on there, but yeah, it just maps out all of the different individual bullet points. So then I can run table searches on this and see it across all the different reports. And then when I'm done, I can clear out. Well, it's still building right now, so it's because I'm also showing it. There we go. When I'm done, I can clear the table, and then I don't run into the row limit issues. I am so sorry, John, for doing this. Another thing that I wanted to do was create a Slack integration, so no one actually has to remember the link for the research repository. All they have to do is go into a channel and type in like research and streams. And then that will search this table and pull in the relevant rows and give them a nice little Slack message that has everything nice and formatted. This is not working because there are some limitations with the Coda API. That said, it's like, this is like hack upon hack upon hack. It's nonsense delay for a few seconds to allow Coda to catch up. Like, this is just, it's ridiculous. But yeah, that is my dream for the integration. It is honestly 90% there. The only reason why it's not working is it's not returning relevancy score. So I can't make sure that it is actually relevant. So yeah, that is my research repository. Are there any questions? Yes, I also, if you're asking if I created this search, this is like a built-in button that Coda has. So real nice and handy.
I got one question. Did you try other platforms of creating this before Coda, or was Coda kind of the instant, I know this can happen on Coda?
So it was kind of instant just because I rely on Coda to exist in general. But I also research a lot of other research repositories, and they kind of are all, the structure of them is bundled up with recording software often, and then pulling out quotes from there. And we have our own really specific method of doing that, so I knew it wouldn't necessarily fit. So it's kind of like all the repos out there are transcription software with table functions built in as like a bonus. And that is absolutely not what I wanted. And then here's a peek into the
I love this because I think, you know, internal research at a company is usually really hard to have like such a nice interface to you know, recover that. It's stuff that gets lost a lot.
Yeah. And I don't want it to be lost. And I've already gone ahead and tested this with some real queries that would have taken me like a week to compile reports. It's now taking me only an hour, which is saving so much time. And that is exciting. One guerrilla way I was testing this is I just went into like our main product chat and I was like, hey, what are your product hot takes? What are things that can't prove? And I got a lot of engagement on that, and it was fun to just take people's hot takes and be like, well, can I prove this hot take with a repository? So that's just like a fun little research thing.
I have a question on your use case. When would you, I think I understand define research, but when would you use the insight level search?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on what I am trying to do. Because I am familiar with all of the reports, I do not even have to look at the key insights to just be reminded that this report, for example, will have the thing that I need. I imagine that the insight level search will be used as a way to just like very quickly get individual bullet points that are spread out across research. We've all had that instance where one of the insights in a research report does not seem to match the title of the research whatsoever. I also don't want people to have to like click into this necessarily and trawl through every single bullet point.
When I'm looking for a specific insight that might be inside a sub bullet,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know which report has it, basically.
Exactly. So when I search in streams here, it will just return everything that has a stream match in these text fields. But then you actually have to like go through each insight to see which one contains a stream, especially for research that is a little bit less relevant. But with the insights level search, it just raises the individual bullet point. And so you can get a very quick glance into pain points about streams, things like that.
How many reports do you have in this directory?
163, and I have 40 more that I need to add.
I love the way you build search then. It's super inspiring. And it's just building on the layers of all the previous research teams that have built versions of this before. So it's cool to see this is like version 7 out in the world.
I would love to hear your further feedback with you at a later time, John.
Yeah, totally. Cool, thanks then. Corey, you're next up and possibly last up, depending on everyone's time today. Super excited to see the accessibility checklist. And Nate, you're on deck or not going at all. We'll chat.
Sweet, thank you. I'm Corey. I am a brand designer at Webflow. So what I'm about to show is actually like Matthew and Riley have maybe already had a little bit of a peek at, and it's something that launches tomorrow. So you'll have a little bit of insight. And my first thing is I did not build this on my own. This is very much a team effort, but I thought it was a great example of just like going from no code tool to no code tool. So let me share my screen. So what we built is an accessibility checklist, is the most basic form. So at Webflow, we are really passionate about not only making strides toward our own website and platform being more accessible on the web, but also like our customer projects that they're building being more accessible. And so this project started with the brand team wanting to like create a checklist that we could use on every single page we build internally to ensure what we're building is accessible, right? So we actually started with the idea that, hey, if we could evaluate each page and then have a way to roll up the progress of what's been checked and what hasn't, that would be incredibly helpful to see our progress. So we considered Airtable, Notion, and Coda as some initial tools to do this. Coda was by far the most capable and easy, and in Zen's example, oh my goodness, you can really build some complex stuff. This is nowhere near as complex. And so, yeah, we started here and you can see that the general concept is we have a lot of different projects that make up webflow.com. And then we have a lot of pages within those projects that we wanted to be able to have a repeatable checklist within each page that we could go through and like categorize and review the page for these different items, right? Like font size and color contrast and those kinds of things that are really important to making sure a web experience is accessible, right? And so we ended up building it, and then a big bulk of the time was documenting and creating all of the actual checked or task items themselves. And then we had the thought that it would be great to launch this to our community for everybody to use, which we were planning to do and still are. And our initial thought was that we could do it with Coda, and kind of ran across a little bit of a bridge with, we wanted to make sure the end experience or like the individual documentation for how to accomplish these things was accessible in itself. And it turns out that Coda's publicly published pages aren't entirely accessible, but they're working on it, which is so exciting to hear. And so instead, we decided, of course, we could build it in Webflow. And so what we'll be launching tomorrow, and then I can share kind of what the link will be tomorrow, is this accessibility checklist, where we essentially took all of the documentation and tags and names of the individual check tasks and pulled them into the Webflow CMS so that we could display them in a page and then layer in candidly some like not native functionality. We definitely leveraged a bit of JavaScript to add some functionality here, but we wanted to create, you know, like a place that our community could come and understand the things they need to do to ensure their pages are accessible, or at least a step towards it. And then also get documentation, again, like you saw in, this one's coming soon. Clicked on one that we're still working on. And yeah, get documentation on specifically how to update these things in their projects. And then, as you may be noticing, as I'm clicking through these different pages, one of the things that was really fun with some of the customization we added is just like the ability to track your progress throughout the site. So as you jump from category or individual task to task, it will keep that progress along the way. And you can do this across multiple tabs or multiple instances of your browser if you wanted to. And so, yeah, it ended up being just like a really fun and powerful way to do that. We also wanted to bake in some like moments of delight. So like as you complete categories of tasks, you'll see, you know, a little emoji pop up for celebration. If you complete all the tasks, you get like a completion message at the bottom. You can also do some fun things where you can like regroup the main list by like where in Webflow you would go to accomplish the task, or maybe when in your design, development, or review process you would go to accomplish the task. And then the other thought we had is it would be great if you could share your progress with people on your team or somebody you're working with. So, you know, I've completed maybe 50% of the tasks and I want to pass it off to my teammate to get it across the finish line. So I can actually copy check with this button. And this will generate a custom URL with parameters in there that when it's loaded in the page, it will load the same progress state you're already at. Again, a little bit of JavaScript magic there. So not entirely no code, but I think the value that it speaks to is Webflow just being so consistent and close to how you would actually code, like it makes it that much easier to integrate JavaScript and a little bit of functionality like that along the way. So yeah, that's kind of the project. I know we're getting real close to time, so I won't talk too much more. Behind the scenes, like I said, really it's all built in Webflow. All the tasks are individual collection items in the CMS where we can document like rich text of all the descriptions. We use categories and when and where as multi-reference fields, or I guess they're single reference fields, so that you can associate all the data really easily. And then it makes updating it across different pages globally really quick as well. So yeah, any questions?
No, but that was awesome.
Sweet. Thank you. Yeah, I hope if any of y'all are Webflow users that you can at least give this a try and consider it when you're building pages, right? If nothing else, to realize that like this is important stuff. So we're just excited to have it as a starting point for sure. And it will continue to evolve over time, hopefully with the community's help. So
really, really cool. And hopefully you could also share some of that JavaScript magic.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it's
awesome
definitely
it's
definitely a bit lengthy. I am in read-only mode here, but yeah, just to give you a preview. I mean, there's a little bit of logic. I again candidly did not do this alone. Maybe wrote a portion of this, and then was so grateful to work with one of our engineers to make it really, really powerful. So
oh no, code, it's burning my eyes.
Yeah, Corey's like, look at this no code solution.
Yeah, that's super coded. No, like again, I think I thought of that and I'm like, I think for me at least, I've learned so much more about code, and Webflow has empowered me to build more than beyond the tool itself. And so I just thought this was a good example of that.
As long as it's over 80% no code,
yeah,
that's far.
We're maybe at like 70 here, so.
Is no-ish code somewhere between low code and no code?
No-ish, yes.
Yeah. Totally. So
Awesome,
I can share the link that will be announced tomorrow in the chat. So
thanks for sharing, Corey. Super excited for it officially launching tomorrow. All right, up to you, Nate.
Sweet, I don't know if you can hear
it?
me. I'm actually, yeah, I can do it. Except that I just want you to note I'm logging in from my laptop as well so I can screen share. So you should see that launching right now, I think. You see a request coming in so that there a second, Nate?
Not
I gotta
yet.
run, but awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you, Riley. Thank you,
Thanks,
Josh.
Marius.
That was
Thanks
awesome.
for joining and sharing.
Yeah, thanks.
Let me just try that again. Hopefully you'll just see it. So for those who are left, if you have a minute, we'll go through real fast. But what I'm working on here is quite similar to this last the application before on research. So I'm kind of feeling really inspired and also shy because that was super epic. And what I'm working on, we'll see how epic it is. But basically, to summarize while my screen loads up, because I'm about to replace an old laptop and you're getting the old laptop here. But Research Insight System, my work, I'm Nate. I'm in Toronto. I work with a firm called ThinkFresh Group and multiple sectors doing innovation design and service design, a lot of civic-based work, and a lot of work with cities and municipalities on services and innovation programs, and a lot of strategic alignment issues for organizations, so decision-making with executives. And so there's a lot of challenges at the intersections of those disciplines, and the problem I'm thinking a lot about, I think I'm loaded, so let me just screen share now. Problem I'm thinking a lot about, trying to do multiple things, like sleep and think. Let's see here. Thanks, Riley. Yes, so the problem I'm thinking about has to do with how to make the research work we're doing, which is like insight research, design research, more, what's the word I would use? More of a strategic driver, how to give it more political currency in decision-making organizationally when it comes to alignment and things like that. So a big part of that process, as you all know, is about storytelling. So usually we use things like customer journey maps to help facilitate storytelling and synthesis. But then we need people to actually drill backwards into what was the data points that actually drove that, and to be able to actually access that data. So what I was working on was twofold. So one was linking between those views that we do the synthesis with, like the customer journey maps, et cetera. And oh, there we go. Desktop 2. Finally. I have too many windows going, and I think I crossed that threshold of because I didn't want to have to load all of these different views of the apps in live. So I just preloaded them all because I knew I'd be screen sharing and it would just go really slow. But maybe that wasn't the smartest move. Let me know when you can see my screen. It should be loading now.
Zoom's thinking.
Anyway,
it's getting close.
Good. Right. So basically, knowledge to action, knowledge mobilization. How do we integrate that whole kind of conversation about customer experience and some of the pain points and the conversation around storytelling synthesis with the underlying data repository from the research exercises themselves? And part of that is the integration between the storytelling views, and also part of that is the integration with the strategy development exercises. So in cities that have many years to catch up on things like digital transformation, they're used to paper reports, and this is the perfect year to start kind of advancing more of a digital transformation agenda. So what we did was we started building out these like reports in Coda and treating them as landing pages so that people wouldn't be kind of scared off by the idea of using or learning another tool. They would just be experiencing a traditional report in the context of a landing page with like a password protected front end, but they wouldn't have to build their own account to use that. I think my screen should be live now. Let me know.
Not for me. Anyone else having trouble?
Yeah, it's still loading for me.
Okay.
Maybe try resharing or getting the pen and paper version of your demo.
I'm literally waiting for my new laptop to arrive in the mail right now. Like this one. Actually undergoing some real, but
amazing.
Anyway, so yeah, exactly. I'm getting one of the new MacBook Pros, which apparently have a single point of failure, which kind of scares me, but that's okay. We'll deal.
Did you stop screening or share screen and then maybe start again? Because it still says
I can try.
Native started screen sharing, double click to enter full screen mode. Just kind of hung up on that.
Okay. Can I stop screen sharing? That becomes the next question. It hasn't even given me the stop widget yet. Maybe I can. Oh, there we go. On my end, it just updated, so let me know if you can see it now.
What's going to be faster, this or your new computer arriving?
That's a good question. Holy. Didn't expect to be blocked here, so my apologies, everyone.
Yeah, no
And
worries.
thanks for your patience. No pain points if you have to run while we're on the loading screen. Let's see. Thanks, Matthew. Take care. Oh, I think it's because my internet connection is unstable. That's what's going on.
Shoot.
Should
we circle back around for next time, Nate? You got all the suspense built up.
I apologize. Yeah.
I know. I'm so eager.
Keeping me live. My apologies, team. Yeah, let's do next time.
Awesome. Appreciate the intro. We'll go straight to demo next time.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and if there's a you might have mentioned this, but if there is ever or when there's like a shareable link, feel free to let us know and we can add it to this doc, just so we can share with everyone who was in this group, just so they can kind of take a peek too.
Oh yeah. I'll have to redact everything for the shareable link version. Mm-hmm. I have not loaded this for people to see in the public. Although you will be looking at redacted data when I demonstrate it, but it's kind of like, yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Awesome. Appreciate everyone. I dropped in the links for what's public and what's currently launched here at the nocode.house/demo for folks to come in. Riley and I have a slotted space, so next time I guess we'll show it, or we'll continue letting the community show off, and we'll just be backup dancers till the end of time. But really excited about what folks shared today, and appreciate y'all hopping on.
Yeah, thank you everyone for showing and for just hanging out and listening to everyone share and talk about this cool stuff everyone's working on. It's cool to kind of have a different kind of hangout experience with the group. So this is fun. Looking forward to doing
I'll be
it
getting
again.
in more people next time. Like,
All right.
Fun fact, this is the first time Riley and I have seen each other's face.
It's very true.
Awesome. Thanks for hopping on, everyone.
thank you.
You have a good day. Bye.